Hello, and welcome to the latest biometric update webinar produced in collaboration with our friends at ID+R&D. This webinar will focus on securing identities in a world shared with virtual humans. Now, we're not talking about replicants as in Blade Runner here, but something that we're all going to be a little more familiar with now and getting more and more familiar with in the future. Of course, artificial intelligence and the power that it has should be well familiar already to anyone in the digital identity and biometric space. It's making our matching and liveness detection algorithms ever more performative and more accurate. The state of the art in these things has changed dramatically over the past few years. Something else that's been happening is deepfakes have emerged as a looming fraud risk over the past few years. And with the more recent introduction of ChatGPT, a whole new group of people are becoming aware of interactions online and the possibility of interacting with entities online that are virtually indistinguishable from real humans. Chatbots will soon be or are becoming domain experts on call, and they're providing technical support and business advice. They will collaborate on projects and even take action on Zoom calls. The deep neural networks behind deepfakes will be used to put a human face on our virtual counterparts that we interact with. Unfortunately, these technologies will also be used to attempt deep fraud and crime. But liveness detection has come a long way since it was used back in the day primarily to detect things like rubber thumbs. In a brave new world of human and machine collaboration, biometrics and liveness are going to be vital to protect our engagements with machines from bad actors. So over the next hour in this webinar, we're going to explore new and emerging use cases for human-machine interaction driven by deep learning and generative AI. We're going to talk about how biometrics will be used to mitigate security threats posed by hyper-realistic bots and these fakes, and how liveness detection will be used to prevent presentation attacks and injection attacks. Put a pin in that, we'll come back to it soon. And the impact of human-machine fluency on security and, crucially, user experience as well. We are going to leave some time at the end for questions and answers. So if you have questions, please note them down, write them in the chat. Just let us know, and we will be happy to take questions. I believe you can use the question and answer down at the bottom to ask questions as well. And as I say, we'll leave some time at the end to get to those. So joining me today, I'm very pleased to welcome ID+R&D CEO and co-founder Alexei Kitrov. How are you, Alexei?
Fantastic. How are you, Chris?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for joining us again. And also with us, we have ID+R&D Senior Vice President of Sales, John Amin. Hello, John.
Hello, Chris.
Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Great. And I am Chris Burt. I am Managing Editor of Biometric Updates, which is the leading source for news and information about what's happening in the biometrics industry and digital identity. So I'm sure that all of you have joining us today have been reading all about these issues with deepfakes, liveness detection, the intersection of these things at user experience and so on Biometric Update. If not, please navigate over to biometricupdate.com afterwards and you can catch up. So without further ado, I'd like to jump right into things and talk about the impact generally of AI. And looking at the news with ChatGPT, it's very obvious, as I mentioned earlier, to a growing number of people, that artificial intelligence has been making just tremendous strides. We've seen before deepfake videos of Presidents Obama and Trump and all manner of celebrities, all created by AI. We're quickly moving towards interactions with virtual humans as just a part of how we interact in society. In this webinar, we're going to talk about some of the positive aspects and also the threats that arise with this new technology and how we can keep ourselves safe in these new kinds of interactions, or some of the assumptions that we're used to relying on no longer apply. So, Alexi, let's start with a general understanding of what this situation is. How do you categorize the potential impacts of these latest developments in AI?
Well, Chris, thank you so much for the question and the opportunity to talk about this exciting new developments. And I talk about the exciting development because I think any advancement in technology and the capabilities that we see on the market are exciting. The new capabilities that we see coming from artificial intelligence, from the investment in machine learning and the deep neural networks, they create a lot of good for the enterprise, for the customers, for the new capabilities that we can expect from the new products that are hitting the market. So I think the fact that we're seeing emergence of these technologies in real life is a good thing. And in even things like deepfakes, where we can see creation of new faces, of new voices, or from scratch, or from morphing a few faces together, it is we see a lot of good potential use cases for these type of technologies. However, we also need to understand that they can be used by the bad guys as well. So why we're talking about the deepfakes right now? This is a fairly new phenomenon that we're because the quality of the picture, the quality of the images that we can see greatly improved just over the last couple of years. So the introduction of generative AI adversarial networks, or GANs, was one of the catalysts of this new generation of the technology that can generate some incredible imagery. And again, we've seen some very positive use cases, especially if you've seen a documentary with Anthony Bourdain and you can hear him narrating it, or you've seen some of the musical videos if there are any Limp Bizkit fans out there. So you've probably seen the latest one with a bunch of deepfakes rolling out in the garage. EA allows some creative some new creative frontiers for the artists. But we're also starting to see emergence of deepfakes as a real security threats in the field of identity and authentication, and the ease with which they can be generated is really starting to scare people, and for a reason, because the quality of the images and the capability that are easily available to the folks are quite incredible. So let me start by just showing what we're talking about. So here's an example of a deepfake and let me show you how it works. So on the left-hand side, you see a picture of a bad guy. Well, in reality, it's not a bad guy. It's one of our AI engineers, but this is the guy who recorded a video of himself. And we also have a picture of a good guy. So that's John Amin, who is generally a very good guy. So but we'll show how easy it is to use the deepfake technology for some nefarious purposes. So here's a legitimate video, and here's a legitimate photo. Through the use of some of the publicly available software, it's very easy nowadays to put one face on another. So right now, you're on the left-hand side, you're seeing a deepfake, or a specific type of a deepfake called the face morphing, where where two faces are combined into one, and the biometric features of John's face are being put kind of on top of the bad guy's face. So now we have a video that has some of the facial features of John, that looks like a real person, at the first glance, and we can generate some photos and the imagery as well. And it's not just the and the scary part is not just how how lovely, from the word live, these images look like. The scary part comes from the fact that when we use this generated image and when we plug it into the very reputable facial recognition engine, and we're not going to name names, but this is a NIST tested top 10 engine. These two images match. So the biometrics will tell you that the face on the left and the face on the right, that's the same person, where we clearly saw that this is actually, a newly created image. So now Mr. Bad Guy is ready to go and do some account takeover and in other fraudulent activities.
So Alexei, just to underline that point, the changes that we saw taking place in that image that that obscure the identity or allow the features of one image to be copied into or integrated with the features of another. This leading algorithm that presumably is being used to make sure that people are who they claim to be is just as fooled or just as easily fooled as you or I might be.
Absolutely, and the numbers that you can see, 95.3%, that's the actual number. That's the output of the leading facial recognition algorithm. And this example shows how easy it is right now to generate these type of images that can be used for fraudulent activity, for account takeover, for creating new fraudulent accounts with financial institutions and other type of the enterprise. So very scary because it's so easy, so readily available for the bad guys to use, and it's not just the it's not the expectation, not the future that we're looking at. This is something that we are seeing in real life right now. The expectation is that a significant portion of the account takeovers the year will be conducted through the use of the deepfake and face morphing, according to Gartner. We're also looking at the cumulative effect, the negative effect from the fraudulent activity with the use of deepfakes in the neighborhood of roughly $5 billion just this year alone. So a significant impact, from some of the leading market that are indicated and forecasted by some of the leading market commentators. We're also seeing some of the real empirical evidence in the real world where the bad guys are using these type of technologies to take advantage of the on some of the gaps in the authentication and identity management capabilities that the financial institutions in other companies are using. I can tell you from my own experience that just 2 weeks ago, I was sitting in the boardroom with one of the leading global banks, and when we asked about what's the number one concern that you have right now, we when it comes to the identity management, security, and authentication, and the response was clear: deepfakes. And we were shown a bunch of images just that looks exactly like the one that we showed to you today, that the bad guys are using right now in real time to spoof the system.
So this has become already top of mind, as you say, for some entities. And at this point, we actually wanted to invite those of you watching the webinar to weigh in and let us know. We have a poll that we're going to run. It's just popped up now. 4 questions, yes or no. Please fill this out now. Just take a few seconds, and we'll show the results in just a moment here, and maybe get a bit of a better feel for how much of a top of mind concern this is for those of you who are watching. So please take a moment, and then in a few seconds we'll close down the poll and have a look at the results. How are our results coming? So we've got some answers coming in. We're gonna give everybody a few seconds to think about it here, and here we have some responses. So yeah, so right away we can see this concern that as you just recounted, Alexi, is being held at major financial institutions, very widespread. Over 90% of over 40 respondents say this is a concern. The majority seems still not yet to have experienced fake fraud, but you can see it's pretty even. So that's interesting to me. We'll probably come back to this at the end. Anything you want to just jump in on right this second here, Alexi?
Yeah, I think it's. I think that the results are very interesting because it is this topic has been a top of mind, especially as we're talking to customers and partners and other participants in the marketplace. The people who are on the front lines dealing with fraud, they're extremely concerned about it. It's what we're also seeing is that the proliferation of the threat is a little bit uneven geographically. So some of the markets, in some of the markets, we are seeing more deepfake based fraud than with the others. So, but the expectations is that this wave is definitely coming.
Yeah, and as reflected here, right? And we're seeing a lot of concern about injection attacks as well, just slightly behind in terms of both level of concern and experience with fraud from injection attacks. Now, injection attacks, one of the reasons that this is so important for this topic, right, is because this is one of the vectors attackers are trying to use to escape the technologies that we have to combat this problem, like liveness detection, presentation attack detection, right? So can you, Alexi, can you maybe fill in a little bit for us how liveness detection can help with the deepfake threat?
Absolutely. So so far we were kind of talking mostly about the bad news. So here's the bad news for the enterprise. We talked about the threat of the deepfakes that the deepfakes represent, but we also have some kind of the good news. And the good news is that it's right now there are two ways that the bad guys can use and utilize the deepfakes that they generate. So if you want to spoof the system, you need to somehow inject, or you need to somehow present the deepfake into the banking or some type of a security system. And there are only two ways to do that. One is the presentation tag. So the presentation tag is something that happens in front of the camera. So if I need to go through authentication or onboarding process, which requires me to take a selfie and does the facial biometric matching, I need me as a bad guy, I would need to present the deepfake in front of the camera. So I would need to put show it either on the screen of the phone or present a print in some type of physical form to put it in front of the camera. And there's some ways to stop that, and we'll talk about that in a second. Another way to utilize deepfakes is to use so-called an injection attack. So injection attack is it's a pretty descriptive term, because basically that's a situation when you're plugging it in somewhere in between the camera and the place where the authentication or onboarding decisions made, typically on the server. So you're plugging in the wrong image, the fraudulent image between the camera and the server. You can generate a perfect deepfake, but you need to somehow present it to the system, and that's where the liveness can come in and really help to stop this type of attack and prevent the use and prevent the use of deepfakes and other injection attacks. So when we're talking about the presentation attacks, so this capability is called presentation attack detection. When we're talking about the injection attack, that's the injection attack detection. And the liveness capabilities that are present on the market right now can cover these both cases. And any webinar without a shameless product plug would not be complete. So let me do that as well very quickly. So at IDR&D, we've been one of the market leaders, specifically in presentation attack detection, with our ID Live Face product that done hundreds of millions of liveness checks across the globe. And we will be introducing ID Live Face key capabilities that now covers the injection attack detection vector as well, to produce a truly complete solution for liveness that covers both the presentation attack, the presentation attack vector, and the injection attack vector. And then on top of that, we also recently introduced the ID Live Doc. That's the capability to do the liveness check not only on the people and faces, but also on the documents, which provides a complete suite of the liveness key capabilities for onboarding and authentication purposes. And when we talk about liveness, I think it's important to mention that the purpose of this technology is security. So we're doing this to make sure that that our onboarding or authentication transactions are completely secure. But the way that the technology is evolving, the way that the that we'd like to interact with technology world is it is evolving in a way to make it as transparent, to make it as frictionless, to make it as convenient and natural as possible. So so that's why we've always been proponents of the passive facial liveness. So which means that we'll just use a single frame to run the liveness check. We don't ask the end users to do anything. We'll run the AI-based analysis to make sure it's a person, not a presentation attack. And this is a very important distinction, because traditionally the original liveness would be conducted in an active way, which means that we would ask a person, the technology would ask a person to do something, and if the person complies, then and we can make sure that the person did it, that means that there's a live person in front of the camera. Now with the deepfakes, we've seen that we can deepfake a video, so we can make this deepfake figure to do whatever you want. Blink 3 times, no problem. Turn your head left, right, center, follow the red dot on the screen with your nose. No problem at all. So that's after we're seeing this evolvement of the deepfake capabilities and the new threat of attacks, the traditional active liveness is becoming obsolete, not only from user experience standpoint, but also from the security one. So we and that's why when we were working on the injection attack, the detection capabilities at IDR&D, we stayed true to our completely frictionless and passive approach, and the new capability that we'll be introducing to the market stays frictionless and delivers this natural and continues to deliver natural user experience.
So the user experience element really looms large there, and it looms large from a security standpoint, and in terms of keeping out these deepfakes. But I mean, the user experience is also critical in terms of the kinds of technology that people are using and the uses that businesses are finding for similar kinds of technologies, right? So that's where things like chatbots come in, right? So at this point, I'd like to bring in John and get a little bit more information about what the impact really is of this technology. I mean, ChatGPT has been taking numerous headlines, really taking the world by storm, with the sophisticated human-like responses, right? So what do you foresee developing from this technology, John?
Mhm. Well, I think we can all agree that the impact on society is enormous and really hasn't even been fully explored. I'm thinking about all the examples of having ChatGPT write a college essay and it coming up pretty well. It looks pretty good. And our VP of marketing even experimented with it to see what would happen if we said, write us an FAQ on voice biometrics, and it was all right. It wasn't the best, but I have to say it was a pretty good starting point. So there's so much that can be done with this technology that we haven't really explored. So I'm really going to speak to it at maybe a narrower level. But I want to point out that it's really showing that it's the triumph of a natural user interface. So it's a more human-like interaction. Instead of typing in a few words in a search bar, you're actually asking in a natural human way the things that you would like, and it delivers. So I think the measure of technology is how well it adapts to how humans work, and I think it's showing that this level of technology is really improving. We've come a long way since the directed dialogue IVR, for example, and all these other things where we ask for information. So it just really portends amazing things that are going to happen for us. But we've even had this experience already. So ChatGPT is a responsive technology. It's not proactive, right? You do ask for things. It's a service that responds to your requests. And we've had this experience already with Siri and Alexa and Google. So those technologies have already been creeping into things like intelligent virtual assistants, because that's really kind of what they are, but they're becoming more and more domain specific. So for example, I see in my customers, intelligent virtual assistants really moving into the financial market. Even smaller banks and credit unions are deploying intelligent virtual assistants. It's still kind of a small market in terms of touching us as consumers. Like there's probably only single digit millions of people in the United States who have experienced one of these IVA kinds of solutions. But in the next year, based on what I'm seeing with our customers, we're going to see 3 to 5 times more deployments. And I think we're going to have tens of millions of people who will be experiencing this kind of IVA solution. And what I think ChatGPT is showing all of us is that whatever those solutions are today, they're going to be infinitely better in the coming year, and there'll be more and more of these solutions targeted at specific domains.
So John, financial services is leading the pack, but other areas will be crowding in behind, you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we expect to have happen.
Makes good sense. And so to that end, we again want to throw it back to those of you who have joined us. We've got another poll prepared. This one a little bit different, only 2 questions, but one of them is about how chatbots might be used in your business. And for this one, you can choose more than one. So if you want to select a couple of options there, you see your company deploying chatbots for a couple of these purposes. click on all of those that apply. And again, we'll take a brief moment here and let everyone answer the poll, and then we'll have a look at what we find, and we'll see just how broad this is getting at this point in time. So let's give everybody a few more seconds to ponder and maybe argue with the person at the desk next to them about where they should be deploying chatbots. I mean, we're talking to generative chatbots. We're talking advanced chatbots, right? Not necessarily the legacy version that we've all dealt with, but the new generation of chatbots is of course rapidly coming online beyond ChatGPT. So I think we've got a lot of answers now. Yeah, up over 40 again. Great. And customer service and support, just over 2/3. And of all of the applications that we could think of, have at least a few respondents interested in using the technology in that way. A 50-50 split on almost on whether chatbot enabled fraud is a concern for the businesses of those watching from their offices. So John, do you want to does anything really strike you here?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm surprised that the legal use case is a little bit low, because I can tell you from my own experience, I would love not to have to deal with too many lawyers. Be nice to have more services along those lines, that we could just get answers without having to pay so much.
Yeah,
but I think
that's right. Billable hours maybe maybe getting in the chatbot's ways there, but I mean,
otherwise, I think it makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely. I have heard, anecdotally, while reporting on this space, about interest within the legal profession as well. So we may see that number rise over time as well, right? Yeah. So John, let's move on to examples of where we are seeing that fraud that some of us are concerned about and some of us are not quite maybe convinced about yet. There's a lot of valuable use cases there. And of course, anytime we have a application that's bringing value, there's the potential for fraud. So what are some examples of ways that fraudsters could exploit this kind of technology going forward in the services it enables to commit crimes?
Well, we see, I think there's been a McAfee study that showed some good sides of ChatGPT, where it could write a love letter for you on Valentine's Day. And I actually tried to do that, but it was so busy I couldn't even get in. So that's one issue with ChatGPT right now, is just overwhelmed with requests. But there was also another group that did a study. Well, I guess they did an experiment where they created a phishing email. They had ChatGPT create a phishing email to break into someone's Amazon account by pretending to be Amazon, right? So this is, to me, probably one of the best examples of how it can be used for nefarious purposes. And it's quite convincing, because I think we've all seen phishing emails, and one of the ways that you can tell they're phishing is the bad grammar, the bad layout, things like that. But ChatGPT put together something that, it knows good grammar. It knows how to do things nicely and elegantly, and so it doesn't have those mistakes. So essentially, it's enabling an unskilled fraudster to become far more skilled, and that's a real threat that this technology delivers. From our point of view, in the field that we're in, what I see happening though is actually kind of the opposite. Instead of the chatbot being the malevolent actor, it's actually, because they're so powerful and they can do so much. And let's take a banking example. If someone who isn't the right person is able to access the power of the chatbot, then that becomes big exposure and a vulnerability to the bank, for example. So, in our opinion, what's going to be more important in the short term is making sure that as these chatbots and intelligent virtual assistants are deployed, that they are protected. And in fact, we are seeing the demand. Banks are demanding the IVA vendors and so forth to begin adding stronger security into their solutions. And because a lot of these are voice enabled, then we're seeing the demand for protecting the chatbots to be voice biometrics in order to, going back to that whole McKinsey thing, make it a very natural user experience. So while you're interacting with a chatbot, you're also continuously verifying your identity.
The same user experience that benefits the customer because by making things easy for them to interact with the bank or something like that can also be used by not a customer but a fraudster to combat that and fool that same system.
That's right. That's right. So it's very important for the chatbot in the banking system to be able to defend itself against that. So it's this, again, as the quote that's showing on here, it's about this seamless digital experience. So this seamless customer experience, and IDR&D believes that biometrics is the way to provide that. We were actually founded on it, and recently we received a patent on this whole applying biometrics to continuously authenticate. So actually, I'd like to just ask Alexei to speak to that for a few minutes.
Absolutely. I think that one of the most exciting applications and exciting new trends that we'll see with the introduction of ChatGPT is the much better quality of the content that now can be generated through the conversational AI, which means that enterprise will move more and more communication with customers into new channels, and moving customers from more traditional call centers, websites, and so on into this new world of the chatbots and messaging platforms. And looking to the future, we see that as we can get a lot of the answers to our questions through this type of conversational AIs. There are a lot of information that's pretty innocent. Where's the nearest ATM? But some information would require a certain level of authentication and security. If I'm dealing through the conversation AI, through the chatbot, through the messenger that utilizes the ChatGPT as an engine. If I'm dealing with my financial affairs, or I'm getting access to my healthcare information or government accounts, I want to make sure that they're protected. And if we're going back to this concept of the frictionless experience, of the natural experience, we expect the demand for frictionless security experience within that channel, right? That's the reason why the ChatGPT and conversational AI is becoming so popular, is because it's natural to converse this way, right? For 20 years, we thought that the natural user experience for search is the list of links. Well, now it sounds like a crazy idea, right? It's much better to consume information in sentences and phrases than in lists of links. So what we've been working on at IDR&D is the concept of continuous biometric authentication within those channels. So we can collect the biometric data that's available through the interaction between the user and the app and the phone and the device, and then use this biometric data to continuously confirm that this is still the same person, and we can do it through the facial biometrics and liveness. We can do it through the voice biometrics and liveness, and we can ensure the same level of convenience and the same level of ease of use as we have when we're naturally communicating with our friends and family, when I'm gonna go home tonight and I'm gonna talk to my wife, she's not gonna ask for my password to speak to her. She knows it's me, right? So similarly, when I'll be talking to my bank or my healthcare provider or my insurance company through these channels, I would be expecting the same level of the natural experience, and that's where the biometrics are so useful because they're so convenient. All this data is already out there. It's just a matter of using it in the correct, convenient, and secure way. And that's what we're doing with applications like SafeChat. That's the system that allows to combine all these levels of biometrics into the single platform that works in conjunction with the chatbots and messaging platforms.
This is how you get to the level of experience that people are demanding based on what they know now is available,
Exactly.
without introducing or widening a vulnerability that can go hand in hand with the presence of these new technologies.
Absolutely, and the key here is that let's make sure that it's secure, and let's make sure that this analysis is answering two questions: is this the right person, and is this a person? Right. So the biometrics and liveness, and the combination of these two capabilities can provide this truly frictionless and truly secure experience, both on the chatbot and messengers, and in more traditional ways with an app and onboarding and authentication experience.
Well, it's going to be seems like it's going to be ever more important over the next little while, and I mean, we've seen that reflected in the polls. We're also seeing it reflected in questions from the audience. So we've got over half a dozen questions now. So I'd like to move on to Q&A so that we can address those concerns that everyone's bringing to the table. So yeah, so Alexi and John, we've got a question here: true or false? ChatGPT is not production ready today, but in 6 months will be a fraud challenge for authentication. So I guess that's ChatGPT itself. What do you guys think?
Let me take a first stab at this. So I think that one of the threats, is real already. So it can be a great assistant for fraud associated with social engineering and phishing. So it can be a source of the high quality content that John spoke about. But I think that the key, the tectonic change that comes with the ChatGPT is what's going to come in the future. And what's going to come in the future is the availability of ChatGPT is kind of the operating system behind all of the conversational AI-driven capabilities on chatbots and in messaging platforms, and that's the new frontier for the biometrics and liveness.
Yeah, that's and John, do you have anything to add to
No,
that? I think that seems like
Mhm.
the now and future answer. So yeah, that's a good point. Another question here specific to IDR&D. Does IDR&D provide training and workshops to PhD students working in the area of biometric security?
Yeah, so I'll just say, I'm so glad to hear that question. We love for startups to experience us. We love for students who want to really dig deeper to experience our technology. So we do provide a lot of material. We don't have anything specific, but we do open up our software for evaluation to students who are, for example, we had one student, he did his whole thesis on our product and did an application built using combination of our technology. So we're happy to support that kind of effort.
So reach out, right? That's
yes, reach out. Absolutely. Feel free to reach out.
Perfect. All right, I've got another true or false here. Risk managers will push to prevent chatbot use in their enterprises until 2026. An interesting proposition. Yeah, who would like to? I mean, we can see why, right, based on what we've been talking about. But what do you think about that?
Well, I think that the answer is false. And I think that this is and it's not it's not a question of 2026, it's a question of 2022, because it's in the past tense. So the enterprises are using chatbots already. They are moving a lot of communications there. The platforms like WhatsApp, they're becoming increasingly important communication platforms for the enterprise, especially in the markets like Latin America, Asia, and so on. So this is so we're not talking about the future. We're talking about what's happening right now. It's just a question how useful this channel is going to be. How quickly can we turn it into the kind of to how we enable its full potential through the availability of the security mechanisms within the channel that can allow this frictionless experience. I can give you an example that we've been working at IDR&D with our partner in South America, where we integrated voice biometrics into the WhatsApp channel. And what's interesting about this deployment is that our partners chose voice because in voice biometrics specifically, because voice can be captured through the existing WhatsApp capturing capabilities. We all know that little microphone button that we can press to send voice messages to our friends and family when we communicate through the WhatsApp. And we can conveniently use this capability to collect the voice biometrics samples that are needed for authentication. So the customers don't have to be redirected from the WhatsApp experience elsewhere for the biometric match, but can do it while keep on interacting with the enterprise right on the platform. So yeah, false. It's happening already, and we're going to see a lot of it going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you for those questions. Those are a couple of interesting questions there. Yeah, let's do another. We've got a question here about fraud detection and investigation, which is currently policing and regulatory authorities are running out of capacity to deal with a huge scale of cybersecurity incidents. Fair. Scenario will be more challenging for them with the emergence of deepfakes. Can there be any solution, like maybe having an authorized pool of tech and legal experts as first-level support for any fraud incident? So on the response side, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that there are two sides here. One side is the forensic side that I think the listener is referring to, and but I think that there's another side. I think that there's post-fraud side, but there's the pre-fraud side. So the solutions that we talked about today, like the liveness key capabilities, like the presentation attack detection, like the injection attack detection key capabilities that we mentioned, these are the tools that can help to prevent this fraud from happening. And if the enterprise can move quickly enough to adapt and utilize the capabilities that are available on the market right now, you don't have to get to forensics and investigations, because the security levels that you can have within your enterprise would be strong enough to withhold attacks like that.
Yeah, I would say that the technology, use the technology to fight the deepfake technology, right? So the good guys can leverage the technology to beat the bad guys' technology, and I think that's what we're trying to show today.
So the point underlying the question is well taken, that these teams can't basically be expected to then deal with this whole other class of challenging determinations. Was this a person? Was it the right person, and so on? As introduced by these new capabilities, you got to head them off at the pass. You have to have an automated system that's cutting down on the alerts that are going to your fraud team, that will tell you, I think in everybody's experience, will tell you as soon as you prompt them, and sometimes beforehand, that they are overworked and cannot handle any more tickets right now. Thank you very much.
Yes.
But I think, let me just make one more quick comment. I think this is one of the reasons why I love this industry so much, because it's such a fast-moving landscape. Technology is constantly evolving. The threats are constantly evolving. So that's why the enterprise should be looking for solutions and capabilities that are addressing the latest generation of attacks that are utilizing the latest generation of technologies and can adapt quickly to the new environment. So that's something to keep in mind when and that's why a lot of the customers are working with ID R&D, because we are focusing on these things. We have a very strong R&D team that is constantly monitoring the space and addressing the new security threats as we see them hitting the market.
Yeah, the threats, the next generation of threats is surely not too far off, right? So you've always got to stay at that leading edge. All right, let's take another one here. We've got a question that about financial institutions being perhaps more likely to be at risk for digital insertion. But do you see such attacks or customer concern driving demand in other industries or sectors? So who else should be worried about digital injections?
John, do you want to take this one?
Well, I mean, I was thinking about that question. It brings to mind the saying about, well, why does someone rob banks? Well, that's because that's where the money is, and that's pretty much where fraudsters are motivated. So the fraud is almost all financially driven, and that's why fraudsters attack the financial systems. So, for example, in the U.S., there's huge fraud around the Zelle product because fraudsters have found weaknesses and being able to attack it. And so that's why the FIs are, clearly number one. We do see other fraud vectors where, for example, in the health industry, healthcare, there are people getting services in the name of someone else. And that's an expense to the healthcare system. Is it rampant? It's probably not that rampant right now, but it is a concern. And I predict, and I'm already seeing it, we're going to see biometrics being used more to authenticate people. We have a customer, for example, who is deploying a system in a pilot with a healthcare company, so that it's also for the user experience. When you walk into the healthcare facility, it sees your face, it checks you in, and everything's authorized. And whenever you go into a room for treatment, like outside the room, for example, there'll be a camera that can verify your identity, so that they know they're servicing the right person, and they're not going to, for example, do surgery on the wrong part of your body. These kinds of things that can happen. They're not that commonplace, but they happen more than you would think from the conversations I've had with some of the healthcare professionals.
So, and ultimately anywhere that has value associated with, by that same logic is in theory at risk, right?
Right.
It's easy to see, if you look back at that second poll that we did, those results, I think it's easy to imagine how, where the value lies in those applications, and therefore where they might attract attackers. So I think that's can we put a watch this space marker on that one?
Excellent. And I think it's interesting that the number one was service and customer service line was number one, and that's where biometrics and liveness can be very useful, not only for security but kind of for the personification purposes, because the current technologies that are used for authentication of people, especially kind of in traditional call center channels, they're really outdated, and they really bring a lot of inconvenience to users. By some of our partners in the call center industry are sharing that up to 20 to 25% of all the calls are going to kind of second round of questioning just on a security basis. So So that's where the biometric can really bring a lot of the value, not only from security standpoint that we make sure that this is the right person, but also from the convenience one, because let's make sure that we don't spend a lot of the time doing that.
Yep, absolutely makes sense. We're actually just about back to the top of the hour here, so I think we do have a number of additional questions, but I would like to invite all of those who have submitted questions that we haven't quite had enough time to get to reach out to our IDR&D and ask those questions. We'll also be posting this webinar online for people to go back and review portions that they may have missed or want to watch again. I'd like to thank all the attendees who submitted questions. We've really had, as we usually do, a lot of great questions, and always better to have more. So thanks again to everyone asking those questions. I also want to thank our panelists, Alexei and John. Thanks very much, guys, for going through this topic with us and for engaging with the audience questions as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, with that, you know what, I just want to ask one last question, because I always like to end with a big takeaway for everyone. So I just want to throw over to you, Alexei. We've got a lot of very exciting technologies here, some potential benefits, some real potential scary risks. Where do you see this technology taking us in the near future?
Well, I think that the future is bright. I think that the new advances in technology with ChatGPT, with GANs and so on, the great things that will make our life more enjoyable, better, faster, and will benefit us as a society. I think that our job is to make sure that the bad guys are not taking advantage of that. I think we have some very good technology capabilities in place to address all the attack threats that we're seeing on the market right now. Both, specifically if we're looking at things like deepfakes, with the presentation attack detection, with ejection attack detection, I think that we have some strong protections against this new security threats. But this is the natural process where the new technological capabilities bring both the benefits and threats to the society. And our job is to make sure that we secure those advances for the benefits of the customers.
Great. That's so. In order to keep up with those advances from IDR&D and all around the industry, I'd like to invite everyone to visit biometricupdate.com regularly. You can keep up to date with all the latest technologies and threats and so on. I'd also like to invite everyone to check out IDR&D's website. A lot of great material there, and keep an eye out for the ID Live Face Plus launch, teased a little earlier today. We're going to be covering that on Biometric Update. That's going to be another interesting frontier in this developing landscape. So with that, thank you to everyone who has attended, and we will see you again in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.